give a little bit of time to let people come into the room, but we will be posting this afterwards. If you're watching live, we're going to have this available afterwards on cbddoghealth.com and all over the internet for you. But today, I'm very, very excited to have my special guest. This is Dr. Marlene Siegel. And today we're going to be talking about natural antibiotics and when they can take the place of some of the other more harmful alternatives. So, Dr. Siegel, I'd love to start by kind of asking you to give us kind of the origin story of Dr. Siegel. How did you find your passion for
Origin
animals?
story. So I wanted to be a veterinarian since I could crawl,
Mhm.
in the first words out of my mouth. I
Yeah.
never played with dolls. I played with stuffed animals.
Yeah.
So very honored and blessed that I was able to achieve my dream and become a veterinarian. And I thought that was enough in the beginning. And then about 20 years into practice, I've been practicing almost 40 years. So about halfway through my practice life and career, I had an incident which transformed my life, how I practice medicine. And that was when my kids were showing horses. We were all showing horses.
Mhm.
And one of my daughters, my youngest, she had an accident in the arena with one of my show horses. And short end of the story, the horse saved my daughter's life.
Wow.
Absolutely saved her life. And when I went to get help for the horse, the equine veterinarians that were working on her said, Dr. Siegel, we really don't know what's wrong with her, but what we can tell you is she's never going to be shown again. She's not safe to ride.
Wow.
And we could either put her out to a pasture or we could put her down.
Hmm.
And that was just unacceptable. And it just woke something up in me that said, you may not have an answer, but I know there are answers out there. Just because you don't know where and what they are doesn't mean they don't exist. And that set me on a trajectory. And it was this passion because not only had this horse saved my daughter's life,
Yeah.
that was the biggest part, but she was also a United States and Canadian national champion in open division courses. And she could 2 minutes later take a walk trot rider safely around the arena. That is such a
Wow.
special horse, and she has such a heart. So I started looking for answers. And the more I looked, the more I found, and the more I integrated everything into my small animal practice and into my personal life. And over that journey, it's taken me into an entirely new world, a whole new mindset. And my promise to every client that I met was I would never utter those words, there's nothing more we can do, because there's always something that we can do, including enhancing quality of life, which is
Yes.
ultimately
Right.
the number one goal.
Absolutely.
Right? You want
Absolutely.
to have the healthiest, happiest life while you're on planet Earth. I call it Earth School.
Yeah.
And you have your little Earth suit, and
Yep.
we need to take care
Take
of it
care of
and
it.
have fun while we're in it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming here. Dr. Marlene Siegel is an incredible voice in the holistic community. We're here at the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association Conference, and Dr. Marlene Siegel is our first guest on the HVMA Talks series. And so you can tell from her talking about her career, she is really a powerhouse and has so much knowledge. I read that you were the first female paramedic in the state of Florida.
Yep.
You've been working in the medical field since the 70s. Dr. Siegel graduated from veterinary school in 1985 when she then opened her practice in Pasco County, the Pasco County Veterinary Medical Center. And she also works a lot with O3 Vets, a company that specializes in ozone in veterinary medicine. She works with chiropractic training, Chinese herbal medicine, acupuncture, Jin Shin Jitsu, Chinese herbs, intrinsic energy products, therapeutic laser, essential oils, batch flowers, emotional healing. She's certified in live blood analysis. You are one of the vets with the most different qualifications and different modalities that you work with, which I think kind of plays into exactly what you're saying about, there is always something that we can do.
Right. I'm always looking for something else that we can add into the practice, because I will never tell somebody there's nothing more that can be done.
Right.
There's
right.
so many things there. And it's, with our Western training, we have a plethora of tools and diagnostics and therapeutics. And nobody thinks twice about that. But then when we come to the holistic or inside, they think, oh, well, I got trained in acupuncture. That's one tool.
That's my thing.
That's one tool.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And maybe they can add herbs. Now you got two.
Yeah.
But would you go to a surgeon that has 1 or 2 instruments in their surgical kit?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. You
Right.
can't do everything with that limited toolkit.
Yeah.
So it's important that we have enough tools and enough diversity that we can meet the needs of the individual that we're trying to work with.
Right. And I think that the reason that so many people seek out a more holistic route is because they're tired of the prescriptive, one-dimensional way that some of their Western vets work, where, the subject of our talk today is antibiotics and natural ways that are an alternative to helping those kinds of infections. So rather than just blasting them with antibiotics at the first sign of infection, talking about a holistic, multimodal approach to handling that infection. So I want to ask you, what are some of the conditions that we typically are going to jump on antibiotics for our animals?
I'm going to back up and answer that question a little more broadly, because all veterinarians, really all veterinarians, want to do a great job. But remember, our training was limited to a pill for the ill, a diet for the disease. Veterinarians were trained to be able to identify symptoms, and then we name it, we blame it, and then we come up with a treatment for it. So that model of, you have a symptom, what are your tools to treat it? You got antibiotics, you got steroids, you've got surgery, you've got chemo, you got radiation, and that's the limited toolkit.
Right.
They don't have anything else to reach for, and that's why they'll say there's nothing more I can do, because there's no more of the steroids didn't work, the Apoquel didn't work, the antibiotics aren't working. In fact, we won't have antibiotics in 20 years. That actually is more like 15 years now, because at the time that we got that statistic, the rate of antibiotic resistance is becoming so high that for any MD or veterinarian that doesn't have alternatives, they're not going to have the ability to treat infectious diseases, because antibiotics will be useless. They're already useless in a lot of cases right now.
Yeah, because it's the first thing you go to. There are so many other things that can be done preventatively.
Absolutely. So when you ask me the question, what are conditions that antibiotics are typically used for? Sadly, they're used for conditions that they aren't even responsive for. So if you have a viral infection, which how many veterinarians and MDs bother to find out, do you have a bacterial infection or antibiotic, which actually means anti-life? So are you dealing with a bacterial problem? Are you dealing with a viral problem? Because antibiotics don't work on viruses. Maybe secondary infections, but they're not treating the virus. So when somebody reaches for that antibiotic without really knowing what they're treating, they're actually causing more harm than good, because that antibiotic is affecting the entire microbiome of the body. They're wiping out the good guys and they're wiping out the bad guys. So you can actually cause super infections. That's a term now that's very popular. And you can certainly cause antibiotic resistance. And you can cause tremendous disruption to the microbiome. Which inhibits our immune system, which also inhibits our ability to use functional genes. That's something nobody talks about anymore. I don't think a lot of people understand this, but we are 10 to 1 more microbes than we are human cells. We're 100 to 1 more mitochondria. Those are the guys that make energy in our body than we are human cells. So when we start destroying those organisms, we are destroying a lot of the functional genes that tell our body what to turn on and what to turn off. We don't think about it that way. And the problem really is that we've created an inhospitable environment. So if you consider the fact that there's more of them than there are of us, what does that make us? We're the host planet for these guys. If we are doing a good job in creating good balance within our planet ecosystem, then everybody gets to thrive in balance. But when they think the mothership is going down because the signals that are coming off are saying, look, all the good guys are leaving, everybody's bailing ship, we can't live in this environment, then these organisms turn on the virulent factors that say, hey, we need the second line of defense to come in so that we can survive until we find another host planet that's going to work for us. And then we'll go back to being in balance if the environment allows us to do so. It's a whole new way of looking at the organisms in your body.
Absolutely. And just more specific to what is actually going on. You said a lot of vets are giving antibiotics for things that it's not going to help. I learned that something like 30% of GI distress cases are caused by E. coli, and E. coli is not affected by metronidazole, which is one of the really common antibiotics. So oftentimes they're just throwing that drug at them without ever knowing if it's even, they haven't tested for what antibiotic or is necessary. And so they're just kind of throwing things at the wall that can do so much damage.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about how that gut microbiome really affects immunity and how that kind of can have a knock-on effect with other diseases?
Absolutely. So 70% of our immune system lives in your GI tract. 70%, right behind that mucosal lining. So when we have leaky gut, where we've done things that damage the gut lining, think of it as a piece of cheesecloth. This is the gut lining, right? So if you have a piece of cheesecloth and you're going to make chicken soup, and at the end, all you need is a chicken broth. You don't need all the vegetables and everything in there. So you take out your cheesecloth and you put it over the pot and you start pouring that chicken soup that's been cooking for 10 hours. And all of a sudden you're seeing chunks of meat and bone and fat and herbs coming through, and you're going, what's going on? And you pick up your cheesecloth and there's a whole bunch of holes in it.
I see.
Okay. So that's what our gut lining is designed to do. It's only allowing the right molecular size of particles to come through. So when it's intact, it's kind of like a piece of cheesecloth, right? And it's a filter membrane, and it allows the right particles to come in, and it keeps all the other stuff out, because it's supposed to go out the poop chute. But if there's a lot of leaky membrane in there, then things are coming through that membrane. They're not getting filtered. They're being picked up by the bloodstream. They're carried over to the liver, and then Mr. Liver sees foreign material, and Mr. Liver's job is to mount an inflammatory response against the invader. It's his job. So now he puts out all of these inflammatory mediators, we call them cytokine storms, to kill the invader. Now, back in the day when Mr. Liver did his job, the invader was killed off. It's not there any longer. The army goes back into the barracks and everything becomes back into homeostasis. Everything's quiet, and you go back and you heal. So your other part of your immune system, your autonomic nervous system, comes out and heals all the damage, the collateral damage that happened when that big storm came out, you know, all the inflammatory mediators. But in our modern day, and we're feeding these animals species inappropriate diets, high in sugar, your kibble diets with a lot of toxins in their hormones, chemicals, and pesticides. Every bite of every meal is causing that leaky gut. It's causing inflammation in that lining. Then we add on top of that, we have toxic water. If you're drinking out of the tap, that's a no-no. All kinds of hormones, chemicals, pesticides, heavy metals, all in that water that you're drinking. And you don't see it and you don't feel it, but it's happening inside.
And it accumulates over time, especially heavy metals. The body holds onto it, and the fat cells doesn't get rid of it.
And we test for it, but the average veterinarian doesn't. So now you have all of this inflammation that's building up, and you see the symptom, the thing that we can name and blame. So we have ear infections, we have allergies, we have chewing of the feet, we have the occasional vomiting and diarrhea, we have the obesity, we have the autoimmune disease, arthritis. Those are just names of things that the underlying cause is inflammation, but we're not treating the root cause. So we need to have this paradigm shift to, yes, it's great to name it and blame it, and it's okay to treat the symptom if you need to be maintained. You need to have some form of comfort while you're going through the healing process, but you don't stop with just making the symptom go away. It'd be like taking the car light on your dashboard. It came on saying check engine light. Oh, let me just unplug it. And then the problem's gone because the light's not there anymore. And that's the logic of what we're doing with the symptomatic medicine. We're unplugging the dash light. We're taking the symptom away, but we didn't fix why the problem was there.
And then you kind of get this sort of chicken or the egg thing where it's like, well, is it the diet that's the problem? Or is it the microbiome that's been destroyed by antibiotics in the past? I'm sure then you just get round after round because they go, well, what can we do? The only option is to use these antibiotics.
Another drug and another drug, absolutely. And then the body's pretty intelligent. The body's going, dude, trying to get your attention. I'm trying to tell you there's something out of balance here. And instead of addressing that, we squelch the symptom. So the body sits there and goes, oh, well, you didn't get the message that time. We come back and give it a little louder and a little louder and a little louder. And then we wonder, how did we get cancer? How did we get autoimmune diseases?
Okay, so let's talk about then some options that we have in the cases where we have an infection. We the microbiome is messed up. We want to do something, and we don't want to run straight for the antibiotics. What are some tools that you use that we can pull back that infection in order to then have a base that we can kind of reset that to start then treating the root of the cause?
So the way you ask the question is a little complicated.
Okay.
Because if you do have a serious life-threatening infection, you may need to get out of that crisis, and you may need a drug to do that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I don't, that's a really broad question.
Sure.
But let's take it before that. How do we keep the body healthy? That's the question that we really want to address. How do we stay healthy? What does that look like? So I have that 6-step ebook that people are
which we will
welcome
tell you
to
about
download.
at the end of this.
We'll come to that later. But here's the process that I use to help from the beginning kitten and puppy all the way to the animal with serious health challenges.
Okay.
Number one, we have to stop polluting the body. So we have to take ownership and responsibility to say, what am I doing to contribute to the problem?
Yeah.
Am I using tap water for my pet, or am I using structured, filtered, healthy quality water? Am I feeding an inappropriate diet? Am I feeding my animal a lot of sugar, hormones, chemicals, pesticides, canola oil, GMOs, right? If that's what you're feeding, you need to stop doing that. We need to look at the amount of electromagnetic pollution that we have in our homes, the Wi-Fi, the smart appliances, the routers. We need to know where our problems are. We're kind of sitting in front of a little EMF right now, but I've got some protection on, so it's okay. And then we're looking at the environment. Are we slathering up with things that are organic, or are we putting on things that are being absorbed by our skin that are contributing to that load? And then last but not least, it's really our attitude. What are the thoughts we're thinking? I call them automatic negative thoughts. And they're ants. And some people have a lot of ants. And then we're in a time period right now where people are just so stuck in fear and anxiety and stress. And our pets are in training to that. So all of that is actually contributing to leaky gut.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we're taking and destroying the microbiome through these topical products and through the antibiotics and through chemicals and hormones and pesticides and particularly genetically modified organisms. So all of that is now disrupting the microbiome. The average pet owner doesn't know, and the average veterinarian is just starting to learn about pre and probiotics, but we have to replenish the gut. How the animals did it in the wild, every time they killed something and they went to eat and find the organ meat and the muscles and such, they ate through the entrails. So even if they didn't eat the intestines, like literally, they were biting them. They got some of the effluent that came out. It got on their tongue. They swallowed it. So they were always inoculating themselves with this wonderfully fermented source of whatever that other animal was eating. So, and then back then we actually had nutrients in our food. Our soils actually had nutrients. Can you imagine? Vitamins and minerals actually were in the soil. But we have used farming practices which are so ineffective that now our soils are depleted. So whatever you're eating that grew on that soil, if the soil is deficient, the plant's deficient, whatever's eating the plant, you are the herbivore, you're going to be deficient.
Absolutely.
So all of this is contributing to this perfect storm of microbiome dysbiosis, inflammation, compromising the immune system, which of course lives in the gut, and then the vitamin deficiencies. So just as one example, vitamin D is responsible for over 600 different metabolic pathways. So we think we're really fancy, right? We got all this skin. We are this biochemical vat going on under our skin. So most people don't think about it, but you have all these biochemical pathways and reactions that are going on that make you. And when you disrupt those pathways, they don't work well. Now, if you had a car and you didn't put gas in it, car's not going to run. Okay, that's a no-brainer. We get that. Because it has no ability to adapt. It can't adapt and use air or sand or water or anything else. Our bodies were designed to survive. So our pets' bodies as well. So when you don't do the right things that it needs, their body has this ability to say, wow, not greatest circumstances here, but I'm going to adjust temporarily until things get better. And that allows us to adapt and survive. But if it never gets better,
Mm-hmm.
then at some point your body can't keep compensating. So vitamin D is responsible for over 600 different metabolic pathways, including your body's innate immune system.
Right.
So if you're vitamin D deficient, most humans are,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not out in the sun. We as humans, we can get vitamin D from our food or the sun,
Mm-hmm.
but carnivores can only get it from their diet.
Right.
It's only from the protein that they're eating.
Right.
So if that meat that they're eating was not grass-fed and grass-finished, if it was in a feedlot, it wasn't exposed to vitamin D, herbivores convert vitamin D from sunlight.
Sure. Yeah.
Carnivores convert it from their protein source. So if your animal is eating a diet that never saw sunlight, they're going to be vitamin D deficient. And we have studies, university studies, that show 85% of animals eating a processed food diet are vitamin D deficient.
Wow, really?
So, yeah. So
That's
now
incredible.
you've wiped out their innate immune system,
Yep.
and you're throwing all these drugs at them, trying to get the body to work, and it can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the tools that it needs.
Right.
So it's very important that we make that paradigm shift. It's not about even natural antibiotics at that point. It's about fixing the body's biology.
Okay.
We need to be aware of what are we deficient in, what do we have that are excesses, what are we toxic in.
Okay.
And then we have to supplement the things that we're deficient in, which cannabis, where we have all these endocannabinoid receptors.
Absolutely.
And yet we haven't had anything to feed them in a long time.
Right. And there's so much that cannabis can do for the GI tract.
Yeah.
There's an enormous amount of receptors throughout the gut and the stomach and the small and large intestines that, especially for dogs that are prone to allergies, cats, whatever your animal may be, there's an enormous amount that it can do to help reset, to get back from that place of gut dysbiosis with that overactive infection, and as well as to prevent it from happening in the future. Do you use cannabis in your practice?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my philosophy is, what are we deficient in? Can we test for it, and can we supplement it? What are we in excess or toxicity of? Can we get rid of it? And then feed a species appropriate diet, the right kind of water, make the environment as clean as we possibly can, support the body in the biology that it already has. The body's so intelligent.
Right.
We just have to quit damaging it and then allow the body to restore itself and provide those things that it needs to do its job.
Right.
So we really aren't the healers per se.
Yes.
We are facilitating the body doing what it innately knows how to do.
Okay. So in the case where I think that there's a lot of people watching who have had just a terrible time with allergies in their pets, or maybe even themselves, and they have tried everything. You know, they've probably gone through rounds of antibiotics, learned better, come back, are feeding a raw diet, are trying pre and probiotics, are doing everything they can, and have kind of come on board with what you're talking about.
Okay.
What can they do next if it's still not working? If they're, is it just another game of trial and error with other options?
Again, that's a really open question.
Yeah.
So I would say using the 5 steps. Number 1, stop polluting the body and all the things we talked about. Number 2, making sure that all the essential nutrients are there. You may have to test for that.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
A lot of animals are deficient in selenium and calcium. There are imbalances there. So you have to test and know what you're missing to make sure that you're supplementing it.
Right.
Number 3 is you have to heal the leaky gut. So there are specific things that we do to actually heal those tight junctions so that they become that good permeability membrane again.
Okay.
And then number 4 is detoxification. So we have 6 organs of elimination that we were built with. Our dogs and cats were built with this. They are the kidney, the colon, the lungs, the liver, the skin, and the lymphatics.
Right.
Right? Now, I'm a little biased. The liver and the lymphatics are sort of my favorites because they do the most work.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking at how can I support and nourish it. So when you ask me, they're already eating a raw diet. Are they supplementing the essential nutrients? Have they healed the leaky gut?
Right.
Are they detoxing the organs of elimination?
Right.
Because it's not going to happen by itself. You're going to have to do something to facilitate that. Are their mitochondria happy? That's number 5. We may need to do things that actually support, big word coming, mitochondrial biogenesis. It simply means,
biogenesis.
It's a cool word, right?
Cool.
It just means that you're making more mitochondria.
Yeah.
right? And we need gazillions of them.
Right.
So can we make better mitochondria? Can we help them to make more energy? What does that look like? And it's basically allowing the body to do its job.
Right.
So if somebody is feeding a raw diet, that's awesome. Of course, that's where we have to start. But if they're not making headway and they still have problems, somewhere in those 5 steps, or number 6, which is clearing trapped emotions, all dis-ease has emotions associated with it. So it's really looking at the whole picture. So I don't pick the body apart and go, oh, we're just going to focus on the liver as if it's some isolated organism in the body. Everything works together. And we probably don't even know a fraction of how the body actually works. But the little bit that we do know, we can appreciate that there's a lot of intricacy here. There's a lot of intercommunication going on. And basically disease is mitochondrial dysfunction. It's where the mitochondria isn't able to communicate to the rest of the body and deliver order, so that sometimes you get these rogue cells. That's what cancer is. It's a rogue cell that doesn't know what it's supposed to do. The communication process that says, hello, you are now a senescent cell, or you need to go through apoptosis, which is kill yourself. And they don't get the signal. So if you were part of a rogue army and you were cut off from all your communication, you're not just going to go out there and shoot yourself. You're going to go, okay, I'm going to try to survive until I can find my tribe again. And that's what cancer's trying to do. It's just trying to figure out how to survive in this toxic soup.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about things like a silver hydrosol? Some people know it as colloidal silver.
They're not the same.
Not the same thing.
No, colloidal silver and silver hydrosol are 2 different types of silver. The colloidal silver is a larger molecule. It's like a chunk of silver broken down to make it smaller. Where the silver hydrosol are silver ions. And so they're more active. With colloidal silver, you do run the chance of turning blue. So argyria, because the molecule, the silver particle is so large, it can't be excreted through the kidney. So it's excreted through the skin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's why you turn blue. So I'm a fan of the silver hydrosol. And I know there's a lot of people that make colloidal silver in their kitchen, using electrodes and stuff. But
well, they do the same thing with cannabis extracts, and you get the same kind of variability. And you really do want to trust.
So this is a product that you could hurt yourself and you could hurt your pet if you're not understanding what you're doing.
So how do you choose a high quality silver hydrosol?
We have a product line if anybody's interested. I don't want to do product names necessarily here, but just contact me and we'll get you some connections. But you do want to use a reputable company, and there is, of course, how to use it always. Two people can take a hammer and use it very differently.
Of course.
One constructively and one very damagingly.
And similarly to more commercial Western style antibiotics, a silver hydrosol is going to kill the good bacteria and the bacteria, correct?
It is going to have a modulating effect. So the way silver works is it's going to go down a weedy hole here, but the negative charge on the silver ion, and it's attracted to a certain particle charge that is on a pathogen. And so that's one of the mechanisms that it's using to help to inactivate a pathogen. So it's not going to harm your good microbes. We have silver is in mother's breast milk. So if we nursed as babies, and our puppies are nursing as babies, there is silver in our milk. It's a product of our world.
There are compounds found in cannabis in the hemp extract, like anandamide and 2-AG, which are very abundant in a mother's breast milk. So it's got everything that you need in it, I guess.
Nature has all the answers. We just have to look to nature and say, if I lived in nature and man didn't interfere, what would that look like? And that's how we understand diet. What did an animal in the wild eat when we didn't interfere? They ate another animal. They didn't drag it to a kibble processor. They didn't stuff it into a can. They ate it fresh, the way they found it.
And you were talking about that natural fermentation that occurs in the gut. So there are ways that we can kind of mimic that in the diet, using fermented dairy products, cow milk or kefir, even just fermented sauerkraut, exactly.
Absolutely.
Kimchi.
Well,
maybe
kimchi's
not so
a little
spicy.
but yes, but we're talking about using fermented products and a variety of them. So we make 14 gallons of kefir through our office a week.
Wow.
And that's what we do with our patients. But I do encourage people to use other fermented foods
Right.
because it's not just about the microbes, it's about the diversity.
Okay.
So we're supposed to have trillions of different organisms. Well, what happens if you're taking a commercial product and you're taking it every day? Did anything this year. I spoke 2 years ago. I did 3 lectures in a row.
We still have 18 in the room.
Am I on audio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's save that conversation. Yes.
It sounds like we've got sound.
We're
back. Oh my goodness, we're back.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there.
Holy moly.
Let's go into some cases.
Let's go some cases. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
We have a question from the audience. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
you can be heard.
So I completely understand the what did they eat in the wild concept, but I don't feel like that applies to these little Shih Tzus and miniature dogs, these little tiny dogs, and where Blanche clearly has leaky gut and is fed the best and everything she's supposed to, and just did a fecal transplant with her, and she's wasting away. And I see this a lot with the little tiny breeds, and they still have an appetite and they're eating and they never gain weight. And I feel like, I don't know, how do you fix a leaky gut on a little tiny 6-pound?
So the
designer
question
dog?
was on these little 6-pound designer dogs who is now being fed a better diet.
No, she has been for years.
She's been on for years.
And this is like several dogs. Like, you know, it's not
Okay.
It's not just her. I'm watching it happen to her. I've watched it happen to some of my dogs. I've watched it happen to other people where they just, you know, start wasting away. They get their little hunchback. And
Okay, so I would go back to the same 6 principles, and I have, in all my years, I've always found an underlying cause. So have you tested for vitamin D, magnesium, B12? Have you done cancer markers? Have you done CRP for inflammation? Have you done all that? So right there, we're talking about vitamin D. And if that individual is vitamin D deficient or can't absorb, is it making B12, the
for your daughter.
Yeah. No, I have to go. I just can find a vet in New York that I can go, that I can trust. That's what I'm having a hard time with.
Yeah.
There is one that I can
And the
Sound,
diagnostics.
Hello.
Yep.
We're
back. So
Okay.
we're just gonna jump right into some case studies because
Okay.
we've got
Do you think they heard the answer to the question?
we got most of it.
Okay.
Can we go?
Yeah, let's
Can
just
you
go into
for it?
cases.
No, let's do a
just
quick recap of what you said
A
because I
recap.
want them
So
to hear that.
the question was, we have an animal, like, you know, the little tiny breeds, the 6-pounders, and she's now being fed a good diet, but she's still wasting away. She's still not doing well. And they didn't test for nutrient deficiencies. They haven't tested for heavy metals. I don't know if she's had an ultrasound done, but there's an underlying problem there that just hasn't been addressed. So when I talked to you earlier about the vitamin D, something as simple as that, where we think, oh, we've done everything, but you haven't done everything. So we really have to address deficiencies. We have to address excesses. We have to get down to the root cause of the problem. And once you do that, then the miracles start to happen. It may be detoxification. It may be that there's just so much crud in there that the body can't respond. Your metabolic pathways are actually blocked. So whatever that might be for the individual, there is always an answer. You just have to look hard enough
And is
for it.
there these are tests that people can do with their vet? If we don't have a vet that is on board with this, how can we ask for those tests that you've talked
Yeah.
about?
Email me, call my office, we'll get you a consultation. I have an online course for pet parents that literally teaches everything I just said to you and more.
Fantastic.
So that would be the way to go, is take that Empowering Pet Parent course. The links are already up. And it's a 3-hour educational program. You will know more about biology than most of the doctors you run into. So it's very technical, but then I give you easy to understand analogies. So you really will understand it. It's a ton of information. You're going to take notes. I actually tell people to take a piece of paper, fold it in half, have column A on one side, column B on the other. Column A is your learning, or all the things you should be doing, but you aren't doing them yet. Column B are all the things you should not be doing, and you still are.
Right.
All right. So then once you have your list, it's not judgmental. It's not about your bad or good. It's all about having a roadmap of where you're going. So now you have this whole list of things that you should be doing and you shouldn't be doing. You pick one thing from column A and you start to do it. You take one thing from column B and just stop it. Just stop it.
Right. And do them in isolation, not doing 10 things at once.
Exactly.
Right? So you know what's actually making the effect.
When there's too many things and it's overwhelming, you don't do anything.
Got it.
So you have to know where you're going, you have to have the knowledge, and then you have to have a way to implement it successfully and sustainably.
Okay.
So that's how I get people to be able to make massive changes. And if it's a husband and wife, or maybe two people, whatever, then one person makes their list, the other person makes a different list,
right.
And then everybody picks something different. Now you are quadrupling the rate in which you're making improvements, because you're only in charge of 2 things.
Right.
I'm in charge of 2 different things, but we're accomplishing so much more, so much quickly.
Fantastic. All right, let's talk about some of your success stories.
Okay.
So.
And these, we try to pick things that people commonly see every day. You're living these.
I'm gonna put us. This is probably easiest to see, or maybe.
Okay, so I'm gonna start
like
talking before we lose our signal again.
Yeah.
So this is Holly. She was a 4-year-old Great Dane, and she came to me after being to multiple veterinarians, failure after failure after failure, for severe allergies, itching all the time, and there were craters on this dog, on the belly, on the inner thighs, the armpits, the top of the back. There was literally no normal skin on this dog.
Wow.
So
you can see it in this image here. It's just wasting away.
It really doesn't even appreciate how bad she really was.
Wow.
So the first thing I did was my diagnostics, because I didn't want to be failure number 4. So I wanted to know what this dog really did and didn't have. So we did all of our diagnostics. I'll tell you, it was over $1,000 workup.
Okay.
We found that she had 2 organisms growing, 2 bacteria that I had never even heard of before, and everything else had resistance.
Wow.
So this is one case because she was so severe and these organisms were so pathologic that I did a 7-day course of antibiotics specifically for those 2. Then everything else was changing the diet, getting rid of toxins, supporting the gut, the right nutrients, healing the leaky gut. And within 48 hours, antibiotics wouldn't even work that fast. Within 48 hours, she quit itching.
Right.
And then let's show the after picture. This was 3 weeks. Look at that dog.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks, her skin was totally healed, and she had a gorgeous, shiny coat again.
Right.
So,
and I just want to highlight, what you're saying here, because before you jump to conclusions and started just grabbing at your toolkit, you figured out what tools were necessary.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think a lot of people miss.
Yeah.
You just jump right to, okay, well, let's kill it all and change the diet to this. But if you hadn't done all that diagnosis, you wouldn't have known that those 2 specific bacteria were the ones that were causing the problem. And you would have missed it.
Not only that, but I now could confirm she had allergic skin disease instead of cancer, instead of an autoimmune disease. So there were other differentials in there. So now I confirmed what I had. I have a plan. I institute the plan. I have an owner on board. Feeding a Great Dane raw was pricey.
Wow.
It's a big dog. She was 160-something pounds. So we had to make the commitment to do it. And in 3 weeks, this dog, who had not had clear skin in her lifetime, was now clear.
Oh, wow.
So great case. Let's see the next one.
Yeah. Who's next?
So we also see a lot of animals that have paralysis. So this was Sammy. This was a cat that presented for acute paralysis. They had gone to their vet. Their vet sent them to a referral center. And if you play the video, just hit it one time, you'll see the picture on the left is Sammy kind of dragging
I don't think
her.
it's going to play.
Oh, we're not going to play.
No.
Okay, well, Sammy was just, anybody who's had a paralyzed animal, they just drag their back end along.
Yeah.
And at the referral center, they were told that this cat presumptively had lymphoma, which is a cancer, and they said it was in the spine.
Right.
And the recommendation was that it would maybe be in her best interest to put her down.
Mm.
The owners weren't willing to do that. And the husband and I had known each other from a networking group. So they brought the cat over and they said, we're willing to give it 2 weeks.
Mm.
And that's what I usually tell people is I can't guarantee outcomes, but we're going to do everything that we can. And then if we start seeing progress, we'll keep going. If we're not seeing progress, then we don't.
Right.
So in 4 days, Sammy was able to crab walk. If you could see the video, I actually have her on my YouTube. So she was crab walking. And if that's all she ever did, the owners were happy because she could use her litter box.
Wow.
Right? And then we kept going. And 4 weeks later, she was walking like a normal cat.
4 weeks.
Yeah. And the owners were so thrilled because she was doing things that she hadn't done in years. She was 15 years old when I met her.
Wow.
So she's already an old cat when I met her, and she almost lived to 20.
Wow.
Just before 20 with absolute quality of life.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Very dedicated moms and dads.
Cool. Who's this?
So this is a dog. So, I couldn't leave the dogs out. This was a dog that came in also paralyzed, also had been to the referral center. This dog was paralyzed for almost 6 weeks before I met them. They went to the referral center. It was too expensive for them to be able to do the surgery. So I came into the picture and I said, well, let's give it a go. Let's try. And with the same 6-step principle that I do for everything, of course, the toolkit was a little different with this dog. We did chiropractic, acupuncture, ozone, a variety of other things. And she was able to stand in 4 days.
Wow.
And then she was walking in 2 weeks. And probably less than that, but the owner didn't take the video until 2 weeks. But there's another video after this one where she's just running with her toys in the house and has never had a relapse since.
Wow. And so what were you using cannabis therapies with this animal? Were we using any other?
I don't remember everything on this case unless I put it up there. I know there was chiropractic, there was acupuncture, there was ozone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember all. She probably did have cannabis. I just don't remember.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of dogs specifically with herniated discs and other issues of the spine that have had incredible success.
Tell us what's happening. Like, why does that work?
So degenerative.
Like, you did all those things. So what happened in that dog's body that suddenly they could walk again?
I'm going to repeat the question in case they can't hear you.
Yep.
So Angie asked, what's going on? What's the process that caused it? And then what are we doing to fix it? So inflammation. So this dog was eating a kibble diet and tap water, had tons of inflammation, tons of leaky gut and nutrient deficiencies. So our goal was to decrease the inflammation, improve circulation, allow the disc to actually heal.
Right.
And the nerves can regenerate. Years ago, we were told when you cut a nerve, it can't regenerate. It isn't fast, but it can regenerate. So the second video is her actually being able to walk, if you go past that. And it's not going to play, but you just have to come to one of my other lectures or take the pet parenting class because these videos are in there.
Yeah.
So let's see the next one. Oh, Ireland, this is a third one. This dog was walking within a couple of weeks as well. And this dog, the owner brought her in to be euthanized because she was paralyzed and he was a nurse and he thought there's nothing you could do because he was Western trained. And so we hospitalized her and had her walking in just a few weeks. And the video is adorable because she's running in a circle.
I'm afraid none of the videos are going to play.
That's okay.
But we will have to follow up with Dr. Siegel and have those some other time.
Let's do the next video, the next case. So this is a cancer case. This was Ratchet, an 8-year-old male neutered bully. And he had already been diagnosed with splenic lymphoma. So that's cancer of the spleen. And the owners didn't want to go the traditional route. That's literally what he looked like when he came in. He had no energy, couldn't lift his head up. He just felt horrible.
Yep.
And in 5 weeks of the therapies that we did, he was cancer-free.
Wow.
So we took the initial ultrasound images from the referral center and sent that in to our radiologist when we redid the ultrasound because our radiologist only saw the after pictures. And his comment to me was, oh, they must have misdiagnosed the dog because lymphoma wouldn't just have gone away.
Right, right.
And I said, well, here's the before pictures. And his one word comment back to me was, wow, whatever you did, wow.
Okay.
And that was 5 weeks.
Wow.
Also very dedicated owner.
So we've just got a little bit of time left, and I want to make sure to have people be able to find you. And there's a couple questions that we've had that I want people to get some answers to.
Sure.
So first, let me just make sure that everybody sees this. So
Okay.
this is where you can find Dr. Siegel. Do you want to tell them a little bit
Sure,
about
let's go through each one.
what those are?
So on the left is my hospital website, which if you go under my name, it says drmarlenesiegel.com, drmarlenesiegel.com. All of where you need to go can be from that one source. But Pasco Veterinary Medical Center is our hospital site, and then holistichealingvet.com is the ebook.
This is where we're going to get really great ebooks.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's free. Just really encourage you guys to start taking that information, making your column A, column B. If you want to take it to another level, of course, you can do our Empowering Pet course, which is transformingvetmedicine.com, and you can find the courses there.
Okay.
Spa's Family Wellness, super excited.
Yay.
Because that is our detox centers that are already in my office, but
Yes.
they were opening independent centers. They will be a franchise, so they'll be all over the world. Do
Amazing.
not have to be run by a medical professional. So these are set up to be a spa environment where you and your pet can go in and receive those 6 organs of elimination.
Fantastic.
And so the first one is going to be built next to my office, and hopefully,
Which is outside of Tampa, Pasco County,
yes,
Florida.
Yep. And then Evo Love Raw is our raw food company and our supplements. And did I miss anything? I think that's it.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely check Dr. Siegel out. She has so much, as you can tell, so much great information here that is really accessible and can help you implement those changes and really learn what's going on.
We are
your
a tribe.
dogs. Yeah.
And our tribe, I think during the chaos of the world that we're in right now, it's kind of awesome because our tribe is able to lift our heads above the chaos, and you see who's with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're rising above all of the fear and the disinformation,
Yeah.
and we're finding solutions.
Fantastic.
And that's really what it's all about, is empowering ourselves to make better decisions so that we can have better outcomes.
Great. All right, we've got a question from Donna Frizzell here.
Okay.
She asks, what is a natural antibiotic treatment to use for cocky bacteria? Is it cocci in the ears of a dog? Integrative vet recommending Automax, which is gentamicin antibiotic drops in the ears. I'd rather not use these antibiotics, even topically, as this dog has just been diagnosed with 2 mast cell tumors. One is ulcerated, angry, rapidly growing. Want to avoid antibiotics at all costs. An immune system is struggling clearly, but need to clear the ear infection to give relief to this poor dog. He's 12 years old, retired service dog with golden retriever.
So this would be a great situation for this owner to buy an ozone machine that she could use at home, and she can ozonate fluids and be able to rinse the ear. But that's the symptom, guys. I don't want you to get down that rabbit hole and go, oh, I can put ozone down the ear. There's a lot of things you can do. You could do hypochlorous acid water, you can do ozone, but you're not treating the root cause of the problem. So this dog already has cancer. She has an ear infection, which is just symptom.
Yep.
So we need to stop polluting the body in all the ways that we can. We need to make sure the essential nutrients are provided. Of course, you have to do the testing to see what's missing. You have to clear out heavy metals and other toxicities. You have to heal the gut, and then you have to go through detoxification of all 6 organs of elimination, particularly the liver and the lymphatics.
Okay. How about this? Is there a way to naturally prevent bladder infections for female dogs with urinary incontinence? I feed raw and try to avoid antibiotics. Thanks so much.
I'm just going to be a broken record.
Yeah.
And because, see, the mentality here is, can I have a pill for the ill or a diet for the disease or a treatment for the problem?
Right.
And that is just part of the problem. We have to address the whole body holistically because it's all interconnected. So yes, you're feeding a raw diet. I would make sure that raw diet is actually grass-fed, grass-finished. Not all raw diets are. And if they're using synthetic vitamins and minerals in that raw diet, now you're adding another level of toxicity. So you see how it becomes a multitude of things that we have to address. But if we don't fix the root cause of the problem, then we're not going to get the outcome that we're looking for. And the body's just going to come back with another symptom and another symptom and another symptom, because it's saying you're missing the picture.
Right.
You're missing the message.
Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
including clearing trapped emotions that are associated with the urinary tract system.
That's so important. Well, we've got some more questions in here that if you ask a question that wasn't answered during this live, we will come back and we will answer them in the comments. And this live will be available for download and to watch afterwards at any time. So thank you so much for coming. We will be back again very soon. Thank you so much for coming, Dr.
You're
Siegel.
welcome.
This has been so lovely.
I trust everybody has a few extra thought processes and tools and things that they can implement. It just takes little steps. You don't have to do everything at one time. Just make the commitment that you're going to do one thing from column A and you're going to start it, and you're going to do one thing from column B and you're going to stop it. And maybe just start with the Empowering Pet Parent course. You know, that would be a great place to have education. Now, when you go to your veterinarian and you can say, these are the things that I would like you to do. Are you willing to do that? And there's a whole course for veterinarians. So you say, hey, if this is exciting to you and watch this video, then maybe consider taking the course and expanding your toolkit.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.